Well, there is no doubt the world's most recognizable brands have a big role to play when discussing equality in women's sports. The likes of Nike and Adidas are seen as pivotal in elevating the status of some of the world's top female athletes. Now, much of the growth potential just needs to be quantified. Enter four-time Olympian and gold medal winning ice hockey star Angela Ruggiero. Her Sports Innovation Lab looks to leverage the power of fan data to help all the stakeholders around women's sports boost investment in the space. Angela joins us now. Great to talk to you today. Let me first talk about your experience as an athlete. What did you experience there that informed this path to found this company or the lab?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I played in 4 Olympics. I obviously knew there was an avid fan base that would follow me around. I retired in 2011 before digital media really took off. But I saw the avidity of these fans that wanting more access to me as an athlete. And I, over the last 10 years, I've really seen how the digital transformation of sport in particular and the adoption and awareness that we don't do enough to invest in women has created an enormous opportunity in the market to grow women's sports. So started the company really saying, could we bring more data to the ecosystem and let's objectively look at women's sports through that lens and show there's a real business case as opposed to what I heard time and time again. Oh, it's a charity. It's a nice thing to do. We said at Sports Innovation Lab, let's actually drive dollars into the ecosystem by bringing the data. And that's what we've been able to do in the last few years.
And on that front, we saw the Sports Innovation Lab announce this coalition earlier this year that essentially brings a lot of the big brands and media together to increase investments into women's sports. What did you hear from some of these brands, these companies, about why they've held back some of those investments?
Well, I think a lot of them increasingly, particularly have more women, which I think is a big deal. At the helm, Andrea Brimmer, for example, at Ally, the CMO there, pledged 50% of her marketing budget to women's sports. There wasn't enough inventory. And what I mean by that is when you go to broadcast networks, some of them haven't bought the women's rights or they've been bundled with the men's rights. So it's been actually hard for those brands that want to spend more money. Think Google, think Coca-Cola. There isn't enough product that they can actually buy because, again, historically, media rights have been bundled with the men or there just isn't the same opportunity. But what I'm seeing is, again, a lot of these companies are saying this is the right thing to do, but it's actually really good for our business, our bottom line. And so this club, the Women's Sports Club that we founded with Ally, was to hopefully drive more investment, drive more awareness, and to work through some of the ecosystem problems that exist so that we can support one another as these brands increasingly want to spend more money and do it in the right ways. There's a little bit more heavier lifting. And I think a big part of that is you might have a smaller sample size today in terms of the reach that you can create in this market, but through investment, again, we're seeing an enormous amount of change. The momentum score that we found, 40% compared to the general sports fan, the women's market drives. So you have a market that is, outpacing the men in terms of driving growth, retaining their fan base, and you see brands paying attention and saying, let me spend more money in this system.
Yeah, it feels like one of the big changes in driving that momentum, has been the real estate that's out there. I mean, you mentioned social media as one, just the digital landscape. There's a lot more places for female athletes to get the word out, to show their game. I mean, can you talk about how that has driven visibility? And more importantly, if we're talking about dollars, how does that translate into ads and sponsorships?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. Athletes have the ability to go direct to consumer now because of social media. And increasingly, the long tail of the sports ecosystem, these challenger leagues like the NWSL or even the WNBA, now don't just have to go through the broadcast networks and where they usually don't get prime time. So they're able to go direct to consumers through digital channels, through the athletes themselves who are driving a lot of the awareness and visibility. Think Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan. And so there's new ways that fans can engage. That's what we talk about every day at Sports Innovation Lab. This fluid fan wants to connect to the athlete, understand more than just the game. They want behind the scenes. They want storytelling. And women's sports is very good at that. Women athletes are very good at that. And so technology has now enabled this ecosystem to grow rapidly and in some ways surpass some of the men's ecosystems that, again, are doing well top line, but they don't have the nimbleness that you see in the women's ecosystem. So athletes are entertainers, female athletes, but tend to share more, be more connected to their consumer. They recognize they probably make more money off the field than on the field. So there's an incentive for them to do that as well. But that, again, creates organic, genuine relationships that the brands want to be a part of. They know that their brand has to connect to athletes and women's sports leagues. And again, athletes, I think, in this space are leading the way on that.
Where are the biggest opportunities for monetization? Is it in women's soccer? Is it in women's basketball? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, look at the NWSL. We're talking about the World Cup right now. They went from a $2 million expansion fee a couple of years ago to $53 million today. Sixth Street, a big private equity firm, just bought the rights to the Bay expansion team and others. So you see a rapid increase in what sophisticated investors now want to buy women's sports assets for. You're seeing the same thing. The WNBA raised $75 million a couple of years ago. You see, I'd say, basketball and soccer here in the U.S. market growing increasingly, and our recent report, Fanarchy 26. About a quarter of the U.S. market wants soccer, played soccer. So again, that's a global sport, but I think increasingly has an opportunity here in the U.S. My sport, hockey, of course, I would love to see more growth. And there's, softball, volleyball. There's a lot of sports that, again, have been underinvested, haven't had the same visibility as, say, tennis or soccer. But the point of it is fans want more. They want more access. They want to consume. And this isn't just female sports fans. This is men and women saying, give me great content, but deliver it to me in a way that I consume today, this fluid fan. And in some ways, they don't care about gender. They just want really cool action with great athletes that are providing an entertaining ecosystem for them, and they'll invest. The fan will invest, the brands will invest. And now you're seeing increasingly the media side of the market say, these rights are worth something, so we're going to invest as well.
Yeah, nice to see those strides being made. Angela Ruggiero, Sports Innovation Lab co-founder and CEO. Thanks so much.